Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to walk you through this look step by step. I had someone ask me to recreate a look that I wore in a previous video, so I am going to show you how I achieved that look. I have all of the products that I used listed down below in case there's anything that you wanted to check out, but with that out of the way, let's get started. As you can see, I've already applied my foundation and my concealer. I'm going to start off by showing you how I complete my base, and I usually start with my bronzer or my contour, and today I'm going to be using the Westman Atelier contour stick in the shade Biscuit, and I'll be using the Smith 157 wedge brush to apply it. I like to pick the product up directly from the stick and apply it from there. I think that it looks more natural, a little bit more seamless than if I go in and directly apply the product right to my skin. And I'm going to start by placing this along my cheekbone. I like to apply a little bit higher because I can be a little bit messy when I'm applying my contour bronzer and it tends to blend down. So if I already start down where I want the product to actually be, it'll blend even further down. I already know that this is where I like to start my contour bronzer, but if you're someone who's still learning or practicing or looking at different placements, what I like to do is look for natural shadows on my face. So I look down and I look to see where the shadow is actually hitting my face. And I try to follow that natural shadow versus trying to find like a straight line, which works for some people. But I know with me, I've got a little bit of an uneven bone structure. So I look for where the shadows are naturally falling when I'm looking down. And that's where I'm placing my contour products. And I'm trying to make sure that I'm always blending upward, because if I'm dragging it down, I'm going to have more of a muddy, dirty look than an uplifted cheekbone look. And then I apply a little bit of contour right in my temple, a little bit above where the eye is for more of a lifted look, because my eyes can look a little bit heavy because they're deep set. So I like to make them look higher, less sunken in. And because I already have a small forehead, I don't pull my contour along my forehead. I only keep it onto the temples. Before picking up more products, I always try to make sure that I've used whatever I already have on my brush so I'm not over applying anything. And then to tone down or to fix any kind of over application, I use my sponge that I used to blend out my foundation, and I just go over all of the lines or all of the places that I placed that product to really make sure there are no harsh edges and everything just fades into the next product. Because naturally I don't have a very obvious cheekbone, I like to add a little bit of contour right in front of my ear so that it kind of pops the area right in front, so it does make it look like I've got a little bit more of a cheekbone than I actually have. And then I carry that down along the jawline. But I'm starting on the cheek itself and gradually going underneath my chin to really emphasize that shape, to try and promote the bone structure that I don't have. And then I'll do a little bit on the double chin and just make sure that that looks blended out. Usually I will use the same brush for my nose because I'm not really doing anything to my nose other than making it look a little bit more cohesive with the tones that I'm using on my face. But I am going to show you how I apply nose contour if I really was making more of an effort. So I'm taking a Sephora crease brush. This is a little bit of a denser brush. I don't love this for eyeshadow, which is how it was intended, but I do like it for my nose contour. And so again, I'm looking down and I'm looking for where the shadows naturally fall along the bridge of my nose. And that's where I'm going to keep that contour. I'm looking for just natural shadows. And then I pull that up into the eyebrow. And I just work upwards. You can also add a little bit of contour around your lips if you want to make them look a little bit fuller. I have a really full bottom lip naturally, so I don't do a ton of contour underneath there, but I do like to have a little bit of a fuller lip, so I will try sometimes to add just a little bit more of a shadow around the sides of my lips just to make them look a little bit more full, but it depends on if I've got a mustache or not. If I've already got a mustache and haven't cleaned that up in a little while, I won't add contour because I feel like that really draws attention to the mustache. But if I've recently taken care of the mustache, then I'll add a little bit of shadowing just to try and trick the eye and think that it's a little bit more of a fuller upper lip. For bronzer, I'm using the Merit blush in the shade Terracotta. I like this shade because it's more of a blush bronzer and it looks a little bit more natural, a little bit more soft on my skin when I use shades like this, because sometimes straight up bronzers can look very orange, but with a tone like this, I feel like it's a lot more flattering and a little bit more like it could be naturally appearing on my skin. So I am placing this where I would traditionally place bronzer, which is higher up on my cheekbone, and I'm overlapping but not covering where I applied the contour. And I'm using my e.l.f. airbrush stipple brush to apply this. And this is more of a sheer formula, so you can really build this up, or you can wear it as more of a sheer wash of color. And this one I am taking a little bit more on my forehead, and I'm overlapping, but again, not covering the contour that I put along my temple. And I'm picking the product up directly from the blush. You can apply this right to the face. That's not my preferred method, but you can if you are so inclined. I'm a really big fan of gradient tones and really working things together before moving on. So I overlap a lot of my products and try to use complementary tones to one another so that it all looks like it's seamless and soft and there are no visible edges from where one product stops and the next product starts. And then for cohesiveness, I like to also take a little bit of my bronzer across my nose and down on my chin. For blush, I'm using the Tower 28 Beach Please in the shade Magic Hour, and I'm using a different e.l.f. stipple brush to apply this. I am, again, pushing into the product directly, and if I feel like I've picked up too much product, I can always tap it off on my hand first, and that'll help evenly dispense it in the bristles as well, and it won't over apply when you're first pushing it onto your cheeks. I personally am a big fan of over applying blush. I feel like blush looks a lot better on my skin than bronzer does, so I do tend to over apply. My face, my cheeks really eat blush, so if I don't over apply, by the time I finish my makeup, I have no blush. And I'm just applying that along where I applied the bronzer, but I'm really focusing it on the center of my face and the apples of my cheeks, kind of like a sunburn look. But again, my face eats the blush, so by the time I finish doing my eyeshadow and finishing the rest of my face, I'll probably need a second coat of blush. So I tend to just like to over apply it now and let it sink in, and then I always take whatever's left over and apply it across my forehead and a little bit on the chin. Again, just because I like to tie all of the tones in together and it looks like it should be there naturally and one color doesn't stand out more than the rest. And I'm going in again with my sponge and I'm really pressing all of that in and really working it together so it's very seamless, very soft. There's no visible lines or edges. And here's what the completed base looks like. For eyeshadow, I'm using the Going Coconuts palette from Colourpop. I've already primed my eyes using the Rare Beauty Eye Primer. I'm going to start by applying the shade Coolada into my crease and transition area using my Smith 232. Next, I'm taking my Smith 247 in the shade Lovely Bunch, and I'm using this brush to apply the shade all over my lid and into my crease. I'm going back in with the 232 in the shade Coolada and reinforcing the crease shade as well as starting to bring that underneath my eye. On a Sigma E27, I'm taking the shade Nutty and I'm really deepening up the outer third. I'm going to hold back towards the end of my brush, and I'm going to softly blend over where Nutty meets the other shades and try to soften those edges. I'm taking my Smith 230 in the shade Shell Yeah, and I'm going to go over just the edges of Nutty. On the other side of the Sigma E27, I'm taking the shade Coco, and I'm applying that to the other 2/3 of the lid. Now taking the Bodyography glitter pigment in the shade Caviar and my Smith 253, I'm going to start applying that shade just to the center of the eye. I want the inner third to remain the brightest, so I'm starting it towards the center of the eye and very lightly patting over it once there's less product on the brush. To line my eyes, I'm using the new Hourglass Voyeur waterproof gel eyeliner in the shade Cave, and I'm running that along the upper lash line, and I'm also going to pull that onto the waterline. And I'm going to start building that up on the lid, just on the outer third a little bit, to really emphasize the outer corner. I'm going to take my Sigma E15 and go over where I laid down the Hourglass eyeliner, just to really deepen that up and build that shape up. To finish off the lower lash line, I'm taking my Rephr 13 in the shade Coolada, and I'm just going to run that first, and then taking Lovely Bunch on the same brush but closer to the lash line, and then lastly the shade Shell Yeah, and I'm only keeping this in the outer corner on the bottom. For the inner corner and brow bone highlight, I'm using the shade Shredded on an Eco Tools Accent Detail brush. Optional, but if you wanted to, this is what I'm doing. I'm taking my Sigma E27 that I used to apply to Coco, and I'm just very lightly, gently placing that on the inner third on the lower lash line. For mascara, I'm using the Colourpop Act Natural Defining Mascara in the shade Brown, and I really want to build them up the most in the outer corner for that lift and that extra drama. Here are the eyes all finished. And here's the completed look. I hope you like the look as much as I do. If you want to see more tutorials like this one, or if you have any other products you'd like to see me use, definitely let me know down below. But that is going to be all from me today. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I will see you again very soon in my next video.